Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to You Bet CaneSport, our weekly look at the Miami Hurricanes and a little bit more from the gambler's perspective. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, and we're back with the man himself, Sterling from Paramount Sports, a guy that has started the year on fire with his prognostications. College football, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, provides quite the challenge at the beginning of the season to guys like Lee. And so, Lee, let's start out with the Miami Hurricanes, and they covered. The line ended up at 51 last week before kickoff, and you said take Miami, lay the points, and you were right. I hate those big lines. They don't work out for me very often when I decide to make one of my small wagers, but it worked out for all the Miami fans that took your advice last week and went with Miami, laying the 51. Your initial thoughts from your perspective of what you saw on opening day from the Hurricanes?
Well, overall, very good. Maybe the best performer was Keyshawn Smith as a kickoff returner. I don't think we've ever opened up. I mean, he looks like a weapon. We haven't had a kickoff return weapon in a while. Think we're going to have really good special teams. And when the Canes are good, their special teams are also very good, as we've seen in the past. I thought the offense overall very good. Both quarterbacks look great. Running back position, we're probably going to be 3 deep as long as we don't get any injuries. Receivers look better than normal. I think Mallory, you could just tell he's about 85%. The whole goal is get him.
I think once the whole game.
That's right. But the whole goal is, I was watching, is to be 100% by Texas A&M. And then I thought the offensive line was decent, nothing special. Need more push out of them. On the defense, it was okay. What's interesting is I thought we looked slow. I don't know whether Famu, their guys are really faster.
Bethune, but yes, they had some.
Bethune
they had some athletes that had a little bit of speed, and they did make the Miami defense look a little slow at times.
Yeah, I thought the defensive tackles looked okay. Defensive ends, nothing special. Linebackers okay. Safety's good. Cornerbacks okay. I was expecting. I heard so much about Ivy, in fall camp, and so far, I wouldn't say he looked as bad as last year, but certainly not like a guy that can start. So they didn't show anything. I mean, they're not going to show many blitzes. They're not going to need to again this week also. So let's just hope, we see steady improvement. And the whole goal is to peak at 8 o'clock Central Time next Saturday in College Station.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have a good time next week. I am dying to hear you're picking that game, but we're not going to jump the gun here. So the bottom line is, from the eye of the handicapper, a guy that was willing to lay 51 points on opening day and ended up coming out on the right side of that, you didn't see anything that would change your confidence in Miami, a team that you told us that you think will win at least 10 games this year, and that you felt really good about from the gambling perspective.
Yeah, I mean, overall, anything can happen. You can have injuries. They need to progress. You improve as you see the most as a team from week 1 to week 2 normally. So, the offense, I think, is going to be fine, but the defense is going to have to probably get a little bit better if they're going to want to beat Texas A&M. So whether we're good enough to beat Texas A&M, I'm not sure yet. We'll know a little more this week, and it's really good to see Texas A&M this week play a solid team like App State, who Miami had trouble with last year, and who took North Carolina, down to that last play. So that's going to be an interesting game to watch. I think after that, I'll have a much better feel on what will probably happen a week from Saturday.
All right, well, I got an edge for you this week. I think I got a little one here. You could tell me what you think. All right. So when the guys in your industry who clearly were not watching Miami and Bethune last weekend,
right,
and they take a look at the stat sheet and they see 93 yards rushing for Bethune against Miami, they're saying, this Southern Miss team runs the ball really, really well. way better than Bethune. If
Yeah.
Bethune was able to run the ball effectively against Miami, what's Southern Miss going to be able to do with Frank Gore Jr.? But the little edge that I've got is of those 29 rushing attempts that Bethune had, I believe only 22 of them were by running backs. And I believe those only went for a grand total of 25 yards. It was the quarterbacks for Bethune that were giving Miami the most trouble, and ended up having 55 of those yards by themselves. So if you take the yardages for loss and net yardage, I believe it comes out to about 19 carries, 20 carries for something like 23 yards. Miami's run defense was actually pretty darn good in that game. And that's what they got to stop this week, Lee, with Southern Miss coming in. So you got a line that's more favorable, Miami minus 26. You got this little edge that I'm throwing out there right now that I think could be a big one.
Nugget.
A little nugget I got for you. I got to make my contribution every now and then.
Well, I appreciate it.
and I put the two things together, along with the fact that I got to think they're going to unleash a little bit more passing game this week, just to start, phasing into Texas A&M week. I don't think they'll show a ton, but I do think Tyler Van Dyke will be allowed to throw more than 16 passes in this game. And I put it all together, and I'm laying the 26 points, and I like Miami. Your thoughts?
Not so fast. Well, so I think Southern Miss is going to run for more yards than Bethune did last week. And why do I think? Because I don't think they can pass. So Ty Keys, they had some injuries to their quarterbacks last week. So, I mean, you ended up having Frank Gore. Is it Frank Gore Jr.? Is that what he's known by?
Yes, Frank Gore Jr.
Yeah. So, sometimes it's Frank Gore's second or third. But, he played most of the fourth quarter. They were going Wildcat, and he threw even a long 41-yard pass. So we're not sure exactly what we're going to see. They're not much of a passing team, or at least not very successful. I think it's a bad matchup for Southern Miss here. At least Miami will have some tape to watch on the game, which I think will help them. They were locked into a game with Liberty, and, they lost that game by 2 points, and Liberty lost their quarterback 10 plays into the game, Charlie Brewer, if you remember the name. He was at Baylor, then went to Utah, and now he ended up at Liberty. So turns out the last couple of years hasn't played a whole lot. He's going to miss, I think, 4 to 6 weeks. So I just think that our defense should be able to have some success, and not going to have – well, if he's out of the Wildcat, he might obviously run a lot. But Miami's always had trouble with running quarterbacks. Now, that's what we're going to face. The quarterbacks at A&M have their top two quarterbacks do run quite a bit as soon as they don't see someone open. So that might end up helping us for next week, what we faced last week. But I don't think we're going to show a whole lot here. And just think we're going to play, like I said, vanilla, and we're just going to overwhelm them. I mean, at every position, I think we're stronger. I mean, some people might say Frank Gore Jr. is better, but we didn't recruit the kid for a reason, or at least did we ever recruit him at all, Gary? I don't think
they took Knighton and Cheney instead.
Yeah. So, actually, I watched Cheney a couple times and always felt he was injury prone. Told a couple people. So maybe in hindsight we should have taken Gore, but
you could always go get him. Let me tell you something. Henry Parrish, they made the same mistake. They went and got him from Ole Miss. If they want Frank Gore Jr. to finish his career at Miami, trust me, he will finish his career at Miami. So that'll be an off-season decision whether they want to chase him in the transfer portal or not. But I feel pretty confident that if they want him, Frank Gore will have his son going to the transfer portal.
Yeah. I'm going to lay the 26 points. I think Miami wins this game 45-14.
All right. Good pick. I like that one. All right. So, a couple other things in college football I want to ask you about. But something else I noticed this first week is how difficult it really is to pick these early games in college football because so much crazy stuff happens. I mean, Florida State, LSU. I mean, LSU should have won that game. I mean, they had two muff punts. They had a blocked field goal and a blocked extra point, and that cost them, I think, 11 points.
I will say something, though, Gary, that I did notice. I thought Florida State was better coached this year. There was a couple times that the quarterback realized there was a certain defense coming at him, or even the receivers were pointing at. There was one time there was a LSU defensive back that was at like 13 yards, and he moved up to 8, and the receiver obviously had paid attention during meetings, and he was pointing to the DB, and sure enough, that the guy that was on him in the slot was blitzing, and so I thought that they were better coached. I thought the plays were better. Are they a great team? No. They've got a quarterback that scrambles a lot and still think that they're limited. But I will say this, by Florida winning in the type of atmosphere that they did, I still don't think they're great. I mean, they're probably the 5th or 6th best team in the SEC. But they do have a lot of talent coming in next year. He's recruiting defensive line, offensive line, linebackers, and that's where they need a lot of help. And if they get Richardson to stay, which is a big question mark, he is eligible, I believe, to come out. If he does stay, I mean, they're going to be a tough out. And we go head-to-head with them recruiting, number one, a lot with Florida State, too. So by them winning close games didn't help Miami as much.
No, not at all. Didn't help at all. It gave them momentum. But the thing I noticed about Florida State, and I agree with everything you said, that because they are better, they were able to hang in that game and give themselves a chance. And then they were able to exploit the fact that LSU made those mistakes and get the victory. Very similar situation up in Gainesville where the Utah quarterback was very uncharacteristically made a mistake down the stretch and actually made a couple of them. He made a couple bad decisions down the stretch, and that cost Utah from, I guess, putting that game. I'm trying if it would have been an overtime. I think if they
would have scored a touchdown and kicked the extra point. They would have won by 4.
Yeah,
would have been a cover.
So little things is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
kind of tilted the scales in those games, and even like in Ohio State didn't look at their best against Notre Dame.
For 3 quarters, CJ Stroud looked like he was off. Now he did lose his star receiver in the first quarter, and sometimes that you can factor that in. But he was off for 3 quarters. So
no doubt.
I mean, if you thought that they were going to score 21 points, that's it against Notre Dame. It's not like Notre Dame's offense looked great. So more the same from them. So hopefully the breaks go my way.
But these are all games that I was watching, and I'm seeing like all these little things that are taking place that are tilting the scales for the better. And I'm thinking to myself, man, it's hard betting college football these first few weeks of the season.
It is.
But we're not going to let you off the hook. We are going to go on to this next challenge here. And so we already said that we're taking Miami. We're laying the 26 points. The Florida Gators are back at home, against Kentucky. And they are 4.5-point favorites, Lee. What do you see in that game?
Anthony Richardson is a freak. I mean, how often you see a guy 6'5", 245 be able to run like that and throw? He's got a good arm, and he's much more accurate than last year. But the problem here with taking Kentucky, and Florida still has weaknesses. They only had 353 total yards in that game last week against Miami of Ohio. They were without their star running back, Chris Rodriguez. But the guy's a fumbler. And he fumbles, it seems like, in big games often. And then on top of that, Will Levis really only has one real target, kid named Tavion Robinson, transfer from from Virginia Tech here. So I just think that Anthony Richardson can mask a lot of weaknesses here. Said last week he's going to need to throw for near 300 and run for 100. Well, he darn near did it here. They're going to be a tough place to go in as a visitor and win. I like Florida, 27-20.
All right. Another very interesting game is you got the Alabama Crimson Tide traveling to Texas. A very uncharacteristic schedule by Nick Saban. Like he likes to schedule these games in Atlanta so that it's kind of like, 3/4 home game for him, even though it looks like a road game. Well, he's did a home and home with Texas, and he's taken the Alabama to Texas, and they are 20-point favorites, Lee. What do you do there?
I think the only way Texas stays in this game is they got to play really solid defense. And they returned 7 guys. Pete Kowalkowski, their defensive coordinator, has been kind of, playing with different things and schemes, but I don't know how much better that they are than last year. So I just don't see a whole lot of talent. Whereas the Alabama defense, they weren't even great last year, and they held opponents to 2.7 yards per carry. They didn't have 37 or 47 sacks. They had 57 sacks on the season. They got the best defensive player, in my opinion, in Will Anderson. They get takeaways. And Quinn Ewers, the quarterback, the new quarterback for Texas, threw an interception. He was sacked 3 times. You got to think that he's going to throw at least an interception, maybe 2 against Alabama. If he gets sacked 4 or 5 times, I don't know how they can win here. So you talk about efficiency. Just look what Alabama did on offense. So they Bryce Young, I think, had 18 attempts, 5 touchdowns. So their receivers and the plays that they run they are so good, and they get receivers open. They set things up really well here. And I think losing to A&M last year on the road, I think that's going to be their battle cry every time they go on the road. I'd rather play them almost at home this year. I think it starts Saturday afternoon, early game. I think it's 12 noon Eastern start. I think they're going to send Texas a message what the SEC is going to look like in a couple of years here. I like Bama big, 48-21.
Wow, Texas has a lot of momentum with Sark. They're recruiting well. Their fans are fired up.
They don't play games in February, though, Gary.
I agree. And if they get blown out here by Bama, it's going to take some of the air out of that balloon that's been going up in Austin. So that'll be interesting. All right. And one other game I wanted to ask you about. Pitt squeaked out of victory in their opener. This time around, they got to host an improved Tennessee team, a team that also seems to be responding to its coaching and is looking better this year. And Tennessee is a 6.5-point favorite going into Pittsburgh. Is that too many points, Lee?
So I watched the Pitt-West Virginia game closely. They play again on a neutral field. Pitt, I think, wins by 2 touchdowns. They were the much better team. Just one of those games. Like I said, things happen the first week of the season. Now, they played last year, and Pitt won 41-34. Kenny Pickett was the quarterback. It was Josh Heupel's second game as coach. And the quarterback that day until late in the second quarter, Joe Milton. And he's never to be heard from again since he was replaced by Hendon Hooker in that game. And that 2-by-2 offense where they put the 2 receivers out wide on either side, that is a really tough team to defense. And they get plays off quick here. So I like what I'm seeing with Tennessee. Their pass defense still not at a championship level, but you don't have Kenny Pickett to burn you. So they're a little more limited. I think Pitt is probably going to be Miami's competition, as it turns out, for the Coastal. This is what, the last year of the Coastal, or 2 more years?
I believe, this is last year.
Last year. So we need another Coastal championship here. I like Tennessee. I think Tennessee is going to be able to score probably in the mid-30s, and Pitt going to have trouble getting up to 30. So I have Tennessee winning this game 38-28. I'll lay the points and say Pitt goes down here.
All right, so we're taking Miami minus 26. We're taking Florida minus 4.5. We're taking Bama minus 20, and we're taking Tennessee minus 6.5. We're going all the favorites to cover this week here on You Bet CaneSport. All right, Lee, start doing your homework, man. We got the big one next week, and I expect you to come armed with some submachine guns for that one. That's going to be a huge game for Miami, and I'm going to be very interested to hear how you break that one down. Tell us real quick about Paramount Sports.
Well, they want to get involved. Got a special actually going on 3 weeks. I rate my selections from 10 to 50 units. I don't have many 40 to 50 unit plays, maybe one a month. And actually, we have our first one. We've hit over 74% of these 40 to 50 unit plays going back the last decade. You get 3 weeks of football, including this 40 to 50 unit play going this weekend. Plus, I'm going to even throw in UFC. We have a 40 to 50 unit selection in UFC and baseball. We're over 35 games above 500 in baseball. Hit a couple plus 150s underdogs in baseball the last week. So we even throw in our big selection over the weekend in baseball, just $297 for the 3 weeks. Check it out, ParamountSports.com, or you can give me a call here at the office, 800-400-9741.
All right, Lee, we will be checking in with you a week from now. Thanks, as always, for your expertise. So for Lee Sterling, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you for joining us once again on You Bet CaneSport. We'll see you next week, everybody.